Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to another Transfer Talk segment with Kartal and myself. We're here to talk about the latest developments in the Beşiktaş world when it comes to transfers. And Kartal, it seems like we've caught a new fish and we're reeling it in. Jens Cajuste from Napoli and this past season of Ipswich Town. Mr. Fabrizio Romano, the transfer guru, broke the news a couple of days ago that Beşiktaş were in talks with Napoli over a transfer for Cajuste. And of course, I'm pronouncing his last name with like a kind of a French pronunciation. I don't know if that's accurate. But so Mr. Romano broke this news a couple of days ago. Of course, all the Turkish journals immediately jumped on it as if they knew all along. But last night, as you can see, I think this was roughly 18 hours ago, Fabrizio Romano posted that Jens Cajuste to Beşiktaş, here we go, deal done for 1 million loan fee plus a 6.5 million buyout clause to become mandatory under certain conditions. Cajuste authorized by Napoli to travel for medical in the upcoming days, I guess. So the mandatory options, Kartal, apparently Ertan Süzgün, I think, said this. Maybe some other people said it.
If he plays 15 games.
Yeah, 15 matches, and then it becomes mandatory. So we're looking at a total fee of roughly of 7.5 million euros here, making him just 500k short of Rodrigo Tabata and 200k more expensive than Ricardo Quaresma. How are you feeling about this transfer?
I mean, I'm happy with the transfer, Kaan. A lot of the fans wanted more of a traditional type of number 6, and it seems like we have that in Jens Cajuste. I always call him Cajuste, but I trust that Kaan's knowledge of French pronunciations are better than mine.
That's French. And he's Swedish, so like I don't know if my pronunciation.
The name Jens does kind of. It sounds like a French name.
Jens is a typical Scandinavian name, very popular in like Denmark and stuff. But we in Belgium and the Netherlands, I don't know if in the Netherlands is that popular, but in Belgium it's pretty popular as well. Jens. In Germany, it's very popular in Germany. I don't think the French use it very often.
Actually, so maybe it is Cajuste, maybe I've been saying it right, or maybe we're both wrong. Who knows?
I think Transfermarkt has like a pronunciation. So let's have a look there, maybe. Let's have a look what it says. I have Kartal Juva's open here as well. Let's see.
Yeah, have you been doing some shopping?
Oh no, I was just checking it out. Seeing what new stuff was available on the Turkish Kartal Juva's already, because the one on in Europe is still pretty bare bones minimum in terms of new stuff, except for the new shirts. I'm just trying to find the pronunciation section here. I'm not really finding it.
Yeah, so it seems like he's got a dual national. Obviously, he's a Swedish international player, but he's got a dual American nationality as well. I wonder what that is. Maybe one of his parents is from America.
I don't know, but I read that he actually grew up his first couple of years. He lived in China, apparently.
That's strange considering he was born in Gothenburg.
Yeah, and you're right here. It does indeed say Sweden and the United States. And he is born in Gothenburg, that's true. I think between the ages of 4 and 5, he was living in China. I read that the other day. So
he's a well-travelled man.
Definitely.
Swedish with dual American nationality. Lived in China. Played in France, Italy, England.
Denmark.
Coming to Turkey.
Denmark as well.
Denmark as well. Yeah, I didn't go that far, but in fact that's right. It was Midfield they played for, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was indeed. Yeah.
And in fact, I'm pretty sure that's where he actually made his first kind of impact on the European scene at Midfield, and obviously that earned him the transfer to France, which then led to the Napoli move. But yeah, look, I'm happy with the transfer. it seems to be more of a traditional number 6. From what I've read as well, and I actually did squeeze in a quick skills video between us starting and the end of my shift in work. I tried watching it, and it looks like he's good with the ball at his feet. He's a decent dribbler. Seems like he can turn away from a man pretty well. He can advance the ball forward. I've read that he's maybe not the greatest of passers, but he's good enough. He's not a charisma, as we say in Turkey, which means basically that they're talentless. But no, he's maybe not an elite passer. He's not going to be spraying long balls like Misrati, but he's a passable passer. He's good defensively. He's good at dribbling. Apparently, his positional awareness it's not elite, but it's good enough for the Turkish league. So obviously we'll make our own minds up about this kind of stuff as he plays. But going off the initial stuff I've read about the player and watching a wee bit of a skills video, it seems to be quite a good player, man. I mean, you don't play for the teams he's played for and be rubbish. Like Midtjylland's it's a well-known football academy, and to come out of there and get a move to France and then to Italy, it shows that there's a player with a lot of potential there. And on top of that, after maybe not such a successful start in Italy, playing in that full season in the Premier League, starting every game and becoming beloved by the fans, despite obviously being on a very poor team, which was Ipswich Town last season. What do you think about the transfer, Kaan? What was your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a good transfer, and it. I think profile. We've been talking about profile a lot recently, Kartal. Yeah, exactly. We've been talking a lot about that recently, and also in the past. Where I think in the past seasons we have always signed players that look good on paper. They were by far, they were certainly not bad footballers, but the puzzle pieces never really fit. And I think Ole said that as well in one of his interviews a couple of months ago, is that the club have kind of been just collecting on paper good players, but it doesn't fit. Like the profiles don't align. And we've seen that recently as well. And in my recent video with Nima, he as well said, when it came to Ciro, it's like, he's a really good player, but he needs to play in a two-striker system. And especially now that his physicality has waned a little bit, he definitely needed that. And that's not something we have, right? I wish you would have told us going into it before. Maybe we could have warned someone, right? But you did expect.
I was dead against it, so
yes.
At least
but you were dead against it because of the
decline.
Because of his decline, because of his, not necessarily because you knew, the issues, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Obviously, Nima's an Italian football expert that pays very close attention to the Italian league, so he knows the player inside out. Whereas we don't have as much information to go off of. Obviously, I made my opinion was based off of the last 2 years of his Lazio career. You're very right about that, Kaan. I'm not going to sit here and say, I knew he wouldn't work in a one-man striker. I'm not going to lie and say
that's not a knock or anything, but you would expect, we're fans, and, I think we try to do some research, we talk to people, because of the show and stuff like that. We try to be as informed as possible, but you'd expect the club to know, right? This is Ciro Immobile. He's a great player or whatever, but he doesn't really fit the profile, right, of what Beşiktaş needs. And if you look back in hindsight now, of course, if you look at his resume, you think, okay, you know what? Okay, maybe he's physically declining a little bit, but this is a guy that can really score goals easily. He's a lethal finisher. He'll still work in Turkey, right? Turkish league is not the Serie A. That should be able to work still.
Yeah.
But because of the profile not matching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're spot on, man. My opinion, as I said, was purely based off of the last 2 years being shit in Serie A. That was the reality of it. Not that I properly done a deep dive into the profile of the player. Obviously, we later did see why he wasn't the right profile on the pitch, but we we didn't know that going into it. Let's like we're just going to be completely honest with ourselves. Like my opinion was based off the decline, not the profile, but we later saw that the profile wasn't the right fit either.
Yeah.
Okay, at times he actually did play some very good passes, but like we needed him to hold up the ball and let the team breathe and come up the pitch, and he's just not a player that can do that, unfortunately. That was a big problem, and that was a huge problem. But if he had a second striker that could have done that and to hold up the ball for him, and he could have made runs off of it, maybe it would have been a different story, Kaan.
Yeah, and it's funny because in our system that we played last year, he was almost functioning as I've said it many times, the lightning rod to Rafa, but really, in reality, where he has had his good career is him being the player who's able to, like you just said, make runs off of the bigger, stronger striker or whatever. And now with, for example, Tammy Abraham, whether or not like he did really well in Serie A or not, which obviously his first season he did well, but then the second season wasn't great. Then he had this injury, missed the third season almost entirely. Fourth season now at Milan was not terrible, but also not amazing. But his profile fits. And I think with Jurasek as well, like his profile, we talked about this many times last season with Masuaku, where he doesn't have the energy, he doesn't have the legs to go up and down that wing constantly and bomb forward and be dynamic enough. Doesn't mean Masuaku is a bad player, not at all. I think
very good player.
Yeah, very good player, excellent player, really. When he wants to, right? Like when he's focused, he's an excellent player. But he doesn't really have he doesn't check all the boxes that you want. And I think if you look, for example, in recent years, if you look at Ferdi Kadiolu, if you look at Sasha Boye, wingers, fullbacks who've been very successful in the Turkish league, even Osay Samuel, those guys, what do they have?
Eren Elmalı on to a lesser extent as well. That guy's not a very talented footballer. He's very dynamic. He can run up and down the flank for days, and that's why he got that move to Galatasaray, and it's actually probably been the best fit at left back they've had for a while, which is quite funny considering the talent they've had.
And I mean, I think that just means that, like in Turkish football and the Turkish league, and I mean, I think generally speaking, honestly, in modern football, like you need fullbacks that are, and like definitely modern football, you need that more and more. And I think somebody like Masuaku is a little bit more stagnant, if that makes sense. Not so dynamic. Yeah, I think Jurasek profile-wise fits better. Doesn't mean he's going to perform better. We have to wait and see. But the profile fits. Tammy Abraham, we still have to, jury's out. We have to wait and see how he ends up performing. But the profile is right. I think if you look at Abraham, 6 foot, what is it, 6'5", 6'4". That's what
he's 195. So you're right. I think
194, 195, something like that. So that's a guy like that already fits. He definitely put on some muscle in Serie A. He's bulked up a little bit because he was very lanky in England, but he's bulked up a little bit. If you saw him on the arrival, like really broad shoulders, good upper body. And he's somebody that's known for good hold-up play, an excellent target man. Whether or not he's going to score 20, 25 goals, we don't know. He's had 3 seasons in his career where he has done that, but that doesn't mean necessarily he's going to do that straight away in Turkey. But at least he's going to be useful even when he's not scoring. Whereas with Ciro, with Ciro it was like if he's not on the score sheet, he's not being very useful. And with somebody like Tammy Abraham, maybe he's not going to score every game, but he's going to be useful. He's going to weigh on their defense. He's going to create space for other players like Rafa. And that's just hopefully going to benefit the team.
Like maybe Tammy's only going to score 10 goals in the league, but Rafa, instead of scoring 12, might score 20 because he's got a striker that can hold up the ball now and play it into him and stuff like that. Allows Rafa to make more runs off Abraham when he's holding up that ball. Something that he couldn't do with Ciro. Yeah. Even though at times we did see at times nice passing from Ciro, but he couldn't be that wall, what they call in Turkey, be the door, hold up that ball to allow his teammates to make those runs off the shoulder. But now we'll be able to do that. So even if Abraham only scores 10 goals, which we're hoping he scores a lot more than that,
he might. 10 would be disastrous, but I expect him to score a minimum of 15 and probably more. Yeah.
But but Rafa's numbers, I think, will go up. I wouldn't really be surprised at all if Rafa's numbers go up. Maybe. Despite he did have a very good season already, but I expect Rafa to score more goals this coming season. I really do, because
he's already had. How many goals did he end up in the season? Like he scored in total, I think 19 goals in total, right?
Yeah, I think he was 19 in total, 12 in the league. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets high teens or even the 20 goals next season, because obviously it was his second best season statistically, but it's a worse league than the Portuguese league. So with Abraham in now, I wouldn't be surprised if his goal tally goes up. I really. In fact, I'd say I'll be surprised if it doesn't. Yeah, I'll make a bold statement like that. And I even think the left wing forward as well, whoever that's going to be, time will tell. We might dive into some of the names we mentioned. The left wing forward, their performance will be pulled up by someone like Tammy as well, I reckon. Yeah,
definitely. I think so as well. But I mean, whether or not Rafa's going to score more than, I think 12 goals for Rafa's role is very good. I would put pen to paper right now for him scoring 12 goals again this season. I would be perfectly satisfied with that. Obviously, if he can score high teens, 17, 18 goals, that would be amazing. But I mean, I'd be happy with 12 again. That's a perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you take it, but I still think the player can give us more.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends on the dynamics in the team, right? Maybe we're gonna lean more on let's say you get somebody like Skov Olsen, who's also a scoring winger. Maybe more of a focal point goes on getting him the ball and less on Rafa. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see how that goes, and then we'll be able to see that in the coming weeks with the friendlies coming up, of course. But yeah, back to the profiles. I mean, Cajuste, I think, something that you've talked about this in the past, like leading more of a Joseph type. And I don't necessarily think he is that. I think he's more of a modern version of a traditional six, if that makes sense. Because like you said, he does have decent feet. He's able to dribble. His passing is okay. It's not fantastic or anything like that. It's not Musrati level. But he's got physicality, and that's something that, the media and the fans... He's a lot more
mobile and a much better ball carrier than Musrati.
Yeah, and you shared a post the other day about Musrati. I think, I don't remember exactly, it was a tweet from somebody, and who said, like, okay, you get somebody like Musrati and then you expect him to play in a certain way that just doesn't fit his profile. Which again goes along with what we're saying here, is that we've been signing on paper good players. Like Musrati is definitely a good player. The problem is, if you're going to play with somebody like Musrati, you also need to build the way you play around him. You can't expect Musrati to start doing Joseph type of number 6 work. You know what I mean? Like
I think if you're playing with Musrati, you're probably better playing with 2 number 8s instead of a 10. Yeah, because that's where he played in Braga, and you're going to need those guys to help a lot with the defensive work, I think. For them to have good positional awareness, for them not to bomb forward a lot, because we know Gedson loves to bomb forward a lot. Rafa is a second striker, so then Musrati's having to pick up. If those two both kind of went forward, there's times where maybe Musrati's had to pick up the defensive, too much of the defensive role, or too much of that work. It's just too much for him, and he's not the most mobile guy, so you need to kind of cater around him. Like, see, maybe if you were to make it like Musrati, Gedson, and then another number 8 as well, like that would have probably worked better, because they could have helped in that kind of formation. There would have been more help for Musrati potentially. But Cajuste, if you look at Ipswich Town, and this is very promising as well, they played a 4-2-3-1 last season. So we're saying that a number 6. So as I was saying, Cajuste is a number 6 that's played in a 4-2-3-1 and a double pivot, which is the same formation that we use. So as we've been referring to throughout this episode and over the last couple of episodes about signing the right profiles, again, it seems like we have signed the correct type of profile, because it is a player that's played in the same formation that we play with, and Ollie referred to wanting a Roy Keane. Obviously, you're not going to really get a Roy Keane in modern football, but seemingly we've signed a more modern version of that, in the sense where it's a first of all, it's a midfielder that's known for his defensive duties first, but he seems to have some decent offensive ability as well. Like, he's good at driving forward with the ball, and has okay passing. So I really think it's a promising transfer, and if we keep making the right moves, it's going to be one that's successful. I think we obviously will need to wait and see. The number 8 now, I think, carries a lot of importance, Kaan. I think now it's been made more clear than ever that Gedson Fernandes won't be the number 8 next season. You can consider now we've signed.
Why do you think that?
Do you not think if you've got the 6 is an okay passer, then do you not think you'd be better off with a really good passer at the 8?
Definitely.
With Gedson, like, before,
that will work.
If we had a very good deep line playmaker at the 6, you could say that they can compensate for Gedson's like passing, the deficiency in his passing game. But now the fact that we've got signed Cajuste, who's an okay passer, not isn't classed as like a very good passer. I think we definitely need to sign a kind of playmaking number 8, which I think would lead us into the next big rumour of the last week, Kaan. If you want to talk about that first.
Yeah, we can talk about that, of course.
And maybe also give me your thoughts on that as well. Do you think this signing means that Gedson isn't the plan for the number 8 position? Do you think this means that he's definitely been moved on, or the likelihood is that he's been moved on?
No, I don't think that necessarily means that. I do think that if by some miracle we were to sign the person you're alluding to, which is Orkun Kökçü, I think if by some miracle we were able to sign him, but as you can see here, this rumor from Abola has interlinked with him. But if we were able to sign someone like Orkun, of course, that would change that. Then Gedson has to go, right? Like, there's only one option then, and that's selling Gedson, really. But this is not I don't think this is a very realistic transfer, obviously, because
I don't think it is either. But I think now with Cajuste coming in, I think we need to sign a good ball playing 8. Like, do you think that'll work with like maybe in like games where we are the underdog, it could work, but I don't see Gedson Cajuste and a double pivot working in the Anadolu games. I don't see that being likely.
If with the current wings, no. But I think I think one of the mistakes that you and many people and even supposed analysts are making is they are judging the functionality of the team with dysfunctional wings, and I don't think you can properly judge what a Gedson Fernandes can bring to the table in a well-functioning team. Like, people are saying, okay, but in the last, how long has Gedson been playing for us? 3 years, right? Like, then they say stuff like, in the last 3 years we haven't been successful, and as if it's Gedson's fault. But that's not the case. Like, we've been successful. We have been somewhat successful, and I think Gedson has played a big part in that. I don't think the fact that we have been unsuccessful is down to Gedson. I think that's down to the fact that we haven't had proper wingers, that we haven't had, that we've been transferring the wrong profile of players, right? And maybe Gedson is the wrong profile of player, but I think that it's too early to judge that without having seen him function in a well-oiled machine. Even this past season, where I think at times we played well, we saw a really, really great Gedson.
Especially in the big games.
Yeah.
When you actually think about it, Gedson was the MVP in the derbies.
Yeah, definitely. And
but
not just.
I don't see this. Like, see if we'd signed like someone that was very, very, very, very good, like a good passer instead of Cajuste. I think you could make that. You could maybe make the point you're making, Can. But do you not think two centre midfielders that aren't overly known for their passing game? Do you not think that's going to affect the team's overall passing game when both of your central midfielders aren't players that are known for being good passers, for being good at building up play? Do you not think we could run into a lot of issues?
Well, I think it depends on how you are going to try and build up. Like some people build up through the middle, some teams will build up through the sides predominantly. So I think it just depends on how you make it work. I think there's many different ways of making it work. I feel like people are so dogmatic in the way that they see football. Like they think only this way works and there's no other way. Like, okay, we were successful 10 years ago with Atiba and Ozan, and now every midfield that we have has to have an Ozan profile player in it, otherwise we can't be successful. That's how our fandom looks at these things, but that's not true. That's not how it works. You know, like I'm not saying that it's not better probably. I mean, I'm all for, I've said this so many times, I'm all for having multiple sources of danger because that makes it more difficult for your opponents to contain you. But someone like Gedson just offers a different form of danger, right? Like he isn't somebody who's going to be dangerous with his passing and his pre-assist. He's going to be somebody who's dangerous with his movement. I don't think that's necessarily invaluable. But also you need to keep in mind that Gedson in the last year and a half maybe or whatever, he has often been used as almost a third or fourth attacker in absence of a decent left winger. And I think the fact that we've seen him so much, you know, bombing forward and making so many runs, I think that is also down to the fact that we have a lack on those wings. I would love to see how Gedson adjusts his game style, his gameplay, when we actually have two capable wingers, a winger on each end. Because I think if you saw, for example, against Athletic Club, he was extremely disciplined and he didn't constantly bomb forward and he was playing a lot deeper and he played a lot. His game was a lot more, how should I put it, like gray, if that makes sense. Like Atiba played a lot of gray games, if that makes sense, right? Like anonymous almost. Sorry? Yeah.
You didn't really notice him.
Yeah, but not in a bad way. It's like he was playing in function of the team completely. And I'm not saying he doesn't do that now. He plays in function of the team in a different way. But I think now he's one of the more, how should I put it? Like he's like a fulcrum in the team. Whereas against Athletic Club, he was more of a supporting player. And I think that Gedson can play that role, and he has played that role in the past. But the problem is that we've not seen him play that role very often because we lack quality offensively, and that's why we use Gedson in an offensive role very often. So I don't think that getting Cajuste necessarily means Gedson is leaving, but I do think that Gedson is probably leaving. The signals are out there that they're working on that. I do think that if we were by some miracle to sign Orkun Kökçü, which I don't see happening, but I do think if it happens, it will probably somehow involve Gedson. Yeah, because like for example, let's say I don't know who said this. I think it was Murat Özen who said it a couple of days ago that there's a very concrete offer from Russia on the table for Gedson. Probably a high number, like 25 million plus, something like that. He didn't say that, but you know that's what it has to be. Otherwise, it's not attractive for Beşiktaş to sell him. And that Beşiktaş are just trying to figure out terms with Benfica. But what you could, for example, do is say, okay, you know what, we have this deal in place for Gedson with, let's say, Zenit for 27 million. We will let that go through. And we'll give you 100% of it, and we'll give you an additional 5 million or 10 million, and you give us Orkun, for example. That's a scenario that could work. I'm just it's just spitballing, but I do think if you want something to happen for Orkun, the only way to do that is probably selling Gedson and probably making that appealing to Benfica in a certain way. And of course, with Orkun, the advantage with him is that he's a diehard Beşiktaş fan, and that's something. Also, the only reason why this transfer isn't completely impossible, there's a small glimmer of hope for it being possible, and that is simply down to the fact that he is a Beşiktaş fan, and not just like on the surface. Like, he's a real hardcore Beşiktaş fan. He has said it in the past, like, would you ever consider playing for another Turkish team? He said, well, if Beşiktaş aren't interested, yes. But if Beşiktaş are interested, essentially, no.
Yeah, and to think we could have had him for €1 million in 2018.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Kaan, do you not think if we're able to get a deal like the one you just mentioned together, do you not think maybe it's better it happens this way than had we got him in 2018 for $1 million? I think it is.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I'm going to say why.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you're thinking the same, but I don't think his development would have been the same. He wouldn't have developed into a top player like he has now. If he came to us at that age, he probably would have developed into a very good player for Super League level. You can't even be so certain about that, but I think there's still a good chance he develops into a top player for Super League level. But I don't think you get a top midfielder on the European level if he comes to us when he's 19, 20 years old.
He wouldn't have the national team experience because he would never be getting the same look in the national team as he did now. He wouldn't have the Champions League experience. He wouldn't have the experience at Benfica. He wouldn't have this experience with Feyenoord that he has, winning the championship there, multiple championships, working on the Arne slot. 100%. I think Orkun coming now, if it is at all possible, which again, probably not, but if it is at all possible, aside from the fact that it would be financially very expensive, but I think the player you get right now is light years ahead of the player you would have gotten back in 2018. Not to say that Orkun wasn't already extremely talented back then, of course. But like you said, the club back then wasn't in a great place. It wasn't 2012 Beşiktaş where Ozan and Gökhan and those players who came got those chances. I think it would have been more difficult. The club was in a tumultuous phase, and it's
it was basically just after it was right just after a golden era finished, and then obviously we had a rough couple of years from after that, and obviously then we had a surprise championship just after that. But it was really just after that golden period kind of finished. Golden period for my lifetime, and people from my generation as well, and arguably yours too, Kaan. Considering you were very young when we had the three-peat under Gordon Milne.
Oh yeah, I was very young. I was a baby.
So that was it right at the end of that, and it wasn't a time where young players were getting a look in. Whereas if it was 2012 Beşiktaş, that was a great time for Gurbetçi Turks to come in the club and create a name for themselves and further develop themselves. I mean, that's where the foundations were actually laid for that success, you could argue.
100%. And so I agree with you that him coming now, at least in terms of the football player he is, would be much better. But of course, like this is a tough one, because has he been bad at Benfica? No, he hasn't. He has been pretty good. I don't think Benfica got out of him what they expected, because they invested quite heavily in him. I think they paid 29.7 million euros for him. That's like, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Benfica's all-time record signing. So they had very high expectations. I think their expectation was, let's play him for 1 or 2 seasons, and then we'll flip him and sell him for 85 million to the Premier League or something. And that just never happened. He never really exploded like they probably expected him to, Also, like, one of the issues there, he's had multiple falling outs now with their coaches. First with Roger Schmidt, now more recently with their current coach. I think one of the reasons is when he was at Feyenoord, he played more of an advanced role, more attacking, scored more goals because of that. Roger Schmidt kind of moved him back a little bit, played him more in a more conservative role, more that deep playing playmaker style.
That's a thing to be actually concerned about, Kaan, because if he comes to Beşiktaş, that's where he's going to be playing. With Rafa's at the 10.
Yeah, of course. And that's one of the things you need to consider as well. Like, Orkun, obviously, he's a massive Beşiktaş fan. But is he going to come to Beşiktaş under the impression of, hey, I'm going to be the star here? Is that going to be his attitude? Is he going to come to Beşiktaş and I'm going to be, you know, the Şifo Mehmet, the Sergen Yalçın of this new era? Is that his attitude? Or is his attitude, I'm going to be a fucking amazing number 8 behind Rafa Silva?
Yeah.
I think for someone who watches Beşiktaş like religiously, I'm sure he does. I think he probably recognizes how good Rafa is. They played together as well, so he knows Rafa.
Yeah.
So I think it'll work, and I don't think Orkun will be a problem. But you never know. You know, he's had multiple fallings out with coaches. He had a falling out, I think, with, I don't remember if it was Dick Advocaat or who it was. He had a falling out at Feyenoord before Arne Slot. So he had 3 coaches he's already had like issues with. You know, he's a relatively young guy. He's 25 years old, I think. And he's already had issues with 3 coaches. That's, you know... but that's
20,
also...
24 and a half even, man. He doesn't turn 25 till the 29th of December.
Yeah. But so that is both something to be aware of and a slight concern maybe. Although I do think that, you know, coming to Beşiktaş, I think for him it's always been a dream. He's been open about that. That's like he wants to play for Beşiktaş one day. I think in his head probably where he is his career right now, he probably didn't think of like he probably thinks more of like, okay, when I'm like 30, 31, like Hakan Çalhanoğlu right now, who's pushing for a move to Galatasaray. I think that's probably like if you would have asked Orkun 6 months ago, oh, when I'm, you know, 30, 31, I'll go to Beşiktaş. Now, of course, with again another falling out, him apparently not being super happy at Benfica, according to reports. Now, whether or not that's true, we'll have to, you know, that always take that with a pinch of salt. But supposedly now he's willing to forego money even, and he doesn't want to. You know, I have this report here from Oyogo up here above. So he has informed Benfica that he doesn't want to join their pre-season training camp, which starts on July 14th. And he's very keen on a transfer to Beşiktaş. Now, yeah, I mean, a player that is keen can do a lot. And that, again, gives you some leverage. But we're talking so much money here, though, Kartal.
Yeah, we really are, Kaan. But I think this would be, if we can sign Orkun Kökçü now, this is a better signing than if Galatasaray signed Hakan Çalhanoğlu. What do you think about that?
Of course. You're signing a player in his prime. You just said it. 24.
Maybe the highest he's a central midfielder. Maybe he's even a couple of years away from that.
Yeah, maybe
24 and a half just now.
Yeah, I mean,
he's maybe not even hit his ceiling yet.
Yeah, maybe.
See, although we do say that stats are like miniskirts, right? But see, even looking at his stats over the 2 years at Benfica, they look very promising to me. This past season seems like he's better across the board. Playing in that more advanced role.
I do think you have to take in mind, I think he has become their penalty taker. So if you're going off of like goals.
Yeah, see, no, I'm just looking at the passing stats, bro.
Oh, okay.
Not about goals.
Okay.
So, see for this season, or this past season, I should say. See his passing stats per 90 minutes. They're all in green for the Portuguese league.
Yeah.
So in terms of like assists per game, expected assists, successful passes, pass accuracy, accurate long ball accuracy, chances created, successful crosses, cross accuracy for central midfielders, they're all in the green. And for chance creation, he's in the 96th 96.1st percentile. So what does that mean? Can we know that means that only 3.9% of centre mids in the Portuguese league create more chances per 90 minutes than Orkun Kökçü.
Yeah, but I do think he takes set pieces, so that's also something to take into account.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing because we need that, right? We need a set piece.
Yeah, we definitely need that, Kaan. It's something that you've been talking about since last summer.
I think he would check
really
a lot of
boxes.
boxes.
Been going on for a lot longer than that. And then see even the year before, when you said the first season he had trouble with Roger Schmidt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing in I believe in that season he was used more as in a 4-2-3-1, which is because that's the formation Schmidt plays as well. Mm-hmm. He was used as one of the eights in a double pivot. Even then, the only stats that aren't green are amber, and their pass accuracy is 84.7%, which is in the 65th percentile. So still only 35% were better than him. And his successful crosses, again, the 66.7 percentile in cross accuracy, he was also in the 61st percentile, 61% percentile. So 61st percentile is the right way to word that. Sorry. So again, his expected assist, successful passes, accurate long ball accuracy, chances created, again all in green. Most of them in the 90s as well. Only expected assists is 85, well 84.6.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a guy like as much as we're saying he's maybe not hit the levels they expected, he's still performed at a very high level. 7 goals, 8 assists in the Portuguese league in his first season, and then 7 goals, 7 assists in this past season. So I think, see if you've got a number 8 and they're producing those numbers, I think you can be happy with that.
Yeah, but you need to keep in mind that when he came from Feyenoord, I mean, look at his numbers at Feyenoord quickly, Kartal, because I think he had like close to 20 goals or something. But he was playing like a more advanced role, like I said.
It's actually, well, maybe if you look at it as a season, his last season in Feyenoord, he had 12 goals and 4 assists. Then the year before that, it was 9 goals, 9 assists. So,
okay.
His assist numbers have actually went up since joining Benfica.
Yeah,
it shows maybe there's been improvement in that regard.
Yeah, but still, I don't think he's taken. I don't know why, but I don't think he's kind of lived up to the expectations of Benfica. You know, that. I mean, I think he's been great. Don't get me wrong. Great. I mean, you also have to keep in mind, like, they haven't won the league since he's arrived, and that's a big team.
That's very true.
So maybe that's also why
there's a negative stigma.
Yeah, I think like maybe they're kind of looking at him like Gedson, right? Like, ever since he's been here, we haven't been successful. That's how some Beşiktaş fans look at it, you know. And with Orkun, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he went to Benfica with a lot of hype, and like everyone expected him. Okay, he's gonna be at Benfica for maybe 2 seasons, and then he's gonna make the big move to the Premier League. And like you said, he's only 24 and a half right now. He's still yet to turn 25 years old, so you would think, okay, Liverpool or something. And supposedly, Liverpool are interested, because Arne Slot is there, of course. But the competition there is so big, and now Inter are supposedly interested. And that would kind of be a very perverse joke, if you think about it. Like, let's say Hakan Çalhanoğlu ends up going to Galatasaray, and that then, in turn, triggers Inter to sign Orkun. You know, that would be kind of painful for us, right? Because, you know, I mean, it is a pipe dream, but, you know.
Yeah, it would be painful for us. But if you look at if Orkun is brought in to be a 1-for-1 replacement to Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who plays as a lone 6 at Inter, maybe that doesn't excite him. Who knows? So maybe. I mean,
you know, Hakan Çalhanoğlu plays as a deep lying playmaker, so I don't know.
Yeah, he does, but like, who knows, man? If he's not, I suppose he's going to play in a similar role to us. Instead, he'll be a double pivot, and he'll be the more attacking player in that double pivot. So, I mean, you'd think that if he was thinking about his career still, he would move to Inter over us, definitely. But
of course,
you just need to hope that that the emotional chord has been struck, and he wants to come to his childhood club, the club that his whole family supports.
I mean, I think
I'd love
logically he would move to Inter, but on the other hand, there's also some things to take into consideration there with Inter. So you can look at it from 2 sides, right? You can look at it, okay, they've played 2 Champions League finals in the last 5 years or so. Gave him multiple
3 years.
multiple Scudettos. On the other hand, Simone Inzaghi just left, and it's kind of the club's kind of in turmoil right now. I don't think it's necessarily an ideal situation to step into Inter. But I mean, it's a massive club, and I think if a club like that comes knocking, it's hard to say no. By the way, for those of you watching, you might have been seeing this QR code in the middle of your screen for a while. I haven't said anything about it, but you know how we have this WhatsApp community that we often talk about. This WhatsApp community where we talk about with our frequent followers of the podcast. We talk with them on everything Beşiktaş, including transfer rumors. The latest rumors get posted in there. If Fabrizio Romano tweets something Beşiktaş related, it's like almost instantly in that group. You can find it in there. Just scan the QR code, join our WhatsApp group. I decided to do it with a QR code because I think it's a lot less likely that spam bots are gonna pick that up than if I would like put the actual HTML link in the description, because that opened the floodgates to some spammers, and we've only clenched that flame. But now there's the QR code here. Go ahead and join us and come and join the conversation, please. It's a great community that we've built over the last couple of months. We would love to have you there and be part of the fun. Join the Black Eagles community and share your passion for Beşiktaş with other like-minded folk. All right, Kartal, so Orkun Kökçü, let's put a pin in that for now, I guess. It's a pipe dream, kind of feels like that to me. But who knows, right? Like, stranger things have happened in football. I don't think it will happen, but it's a fun thought exercise. It's fun still to be linked with him. And it does kind of show the ambition of the club. And, kudos to Serdar Adal. I've been very critical of him, but he said 3 transfers would be finalized before the Austria camp. I know it's not quite 3, but, like, he's pretty much made good on that promise. Cajuste probably gonna join the club tomorrow, travel tomorrow at least, go undergo his medicals probably the day after, then fly and join the team in Austria. We've already signed Tammy Abraham, we've already signed David Jurasek. I mean, he's really kept up his end of the bargain, and
and let's be, to be 100% fair to him, if it wasn't for Osai's dad being a prick, he would have had 3 transfers in days before the camp started. So really, he did live up to his promise, but it was just a scenario that doesn't happen very frequently, a rare occurrence that stopped that from being true. So technically he didn't live up to the promise of 3 transfers before the camp, but I think he gets a pass on that one considering the circumstances. He did have 3 deals done, but it was just last minute shittery from Osai's father that fucked that deal up, and Tom has really, I think, harmed his son's career. And I think when they look back on that, they'll have a lot of regret of the time they didn't fuck over Serdar Adal.
100%. I mean, I think they already have a lot of regret as it stands, right? Because he cost his son, millions, really, if you think about it. He cost his son millions because he's signed now for Birmingham City, championship side.
600K.
Yeah, and that's the championship, the second tier of English football. So he's like probably on like £600,000 a year now. And he could have had...
And that's before tax as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers are. Even, let's say he's making 1 million net. It's still almost $1 million less than he would have made at Beşiktaş, right? So he's literally costing his son millions over a 3-year contract. So, I mean, and kudos to Serdar Adal, I think, standing his ground and putting his foot down and just telling this guy to fuck off. I feel like in the past, people like Ahmet Nuçebi would have had the club been taken advantage of, I think props to him. Maybe not the hardest player to do that with. I think it's probably, I don't know, but I commend him.
The only thing I'm a wee bit annoyed about is that we still don't have a right back in. I think the alternative should have been ready just to go straight away, but we're still to find out who our right back's going to be. As time's going on, I think it's less and less likely that it's going to be Kyle Walker-Peters, who we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's going to be less and less likely as time goes on?
I mean, allegedly Fenerbahçe have made an offer now, so I think. I
thought that got debunked. I thought Yaya Sabuncuoğlu said that he was offered to Fener, but they didn't make him an offer.
There's been some Twitter talk since there has been. I don't know how true it is, of course. There has been an offer made. Obviously, any offer that they can make would be more enticing than an offer we can make. Why? Because they have the potential of playing Champions League football. And they have been a more successful team than us over the last few years. So I'd be a bit worried about that.
I think that's arguable though, because they've thrown so much money at everything, and people keep talking about the project that Fenerbahçe have. I think
there's no project ever.
No, exactly. And that's something like Dusan Tadic talked about that, and other players in the past talked about their project. But I think Fener doesn't have a project. They just throw money and then I think right now Beşiktaş have a very clear vision and plan, and they have the right people making decisions, it seems. And if I was a footballer, I think I'd be more into and look, I think obviously I'm a Beşiktaş fan, but I remember telling you at the time, Dusan Tadic, I would have made probably the same decision if I was Dusan Tadic. I remember saying that because I do think back then Fenerbahçe's project was a lot more appealing than Beşiktaş, because Beşiktaş didn't have anything, and Fenerbahçe at least had something that looked like a project at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't blame Dusan Tadic. I think at the time he was right. But of course we know, at the end of the day, Fener, what they do is their big project is just throwing money around, and that's probably never really going to change with Ali Koç at the helm. But now I feel like Beşiktaş actually have something to offer players, and an interesting idea, an opportunity to work with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think for a lot of, especially Premier League players, I think that's interesting. And as well, you need to keep in mind Tammy Abraham and Kyle Walker-Peters. I think they know each other quite well. At least, if you look at their social media behavior, I think they like a lot of each other's posts. And they're the same. They're the same generation for the England under-21s and stuff like that. They played together there, so there's a good chance that maybe that comes into play. I don't know if it's gonna be him. I don't know. I think the other day somebody said that Beşiktaş made an offer, but it's unlikely. I think Mustafa Kartal maybe. Yeah. So maybe it's not gonna be Kyle Walker-Peters, but I think it's also difficult though, because you say, okay, the alternative should have been ready to go. I don't think that's very real. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily very realistic in football. Even with the biggest clubs in the world, if their option A doesn't work out, it usually takes them a while to pivot to option B. I think very few clubs have their players signed up and on hold to sign whenever another deal falls through. You don't see that very often, I think. So I don't know. I don't think that's super realistic, so I wouldn't really give them too much slack for that. That said, I do think they need to finalize that transfer really soon, though, because obviously in, less than 20 days, we have our first official game. And
they're listening to be in by, was it the 18th?
Yeah, the 18th, so 12 more days to submit the list. So they really have to make sure we have at least a right back, and ideally the left winger as well, for that.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean,
I'd say a centre mid as well, Kaan, but I know you disagree with me on that.
I mean, well, I don't disagree with you. It's but I think the conditions need to be right. You need to be able to sell Gedson, and it needs to make sense, right? You can't be selling Gedson for 18 million and then only get half of it, right? You can't do that.
I think we're going to get more money than 18 though.
I think so.
The money's going to be in the 20s, I think.
Obviously,
we only get half, but
I think it's gonna be north of 25, but at the end of the day, like if you only get half, that's still not like that much, right?
Yeah, but it's just the nature of that deal. I think really the best thing to do is if we can organise some sort of deal like the one you were referring to earlier on, where we would give Benfica the full rights to the sale of Gedson and put some money on top of it, and if we're able to sign Orkun like that, I think that's the best case scenario, because that way you're not parting with more cash.
Yeah.
Then because if we were to sign Orkun with money up front, they're talking 30 million. They're saying 40 million is what they want. Maybe you can finish it, bring them down to 30. But if we could include Gedson in that deal, that will save the club a lot of money. So I think, and then that way you don't feel the effect of, you don't feel that like the effect of losing half of that. You basically gain all of it in a sense, because that is in a way going towards a fee of another player. So I think in an ideal world, if some sort of swap deal, whether it's arranging like what you said about Orkun, or if it's a swap deal with another club for maybe a number 8 that's valued around the same amount as Gedson, but would maybe be a better fit, something like that. I think would be the ideal situation.
I read something, I don't remember who posted it, I think it might have been Mustafa Karataş, that there's like certain things included in the deal, the Gedson contracts, that if you were to like a player exchange would be penalized or something somehow.
I see.
I don't know if there's any truth to it. I don't remember exactly the wording either, so I mean, but let's pivot maybe now to some outgoing news, because there isn't quite, like, I mean, it's not that difficult at the end of the day, Kartal. If you have money, it's not that difficult to sign players necessarily. If you're gonna spend big fees like 15 million here and 7.5 million there, like buying players, it's still great. You have to buy the right players. You have to make sure the correct. You get the correct profiles and all that. But getting rid of players is also something that's very important. We've already managed to offload Onur Bulut, and now we've officially parted ways with Ciro Immobile. The club have announced the departure of Ciro the other day, and also Ciro has now shared a goodbye post, and he's joining Bologna, and we're paying him €2,650,000. So essentially, that's around 40% of what we would have paid him this season. I think that's a good deal, Kartal. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think it's, considering if he stayed, we would have paid him 6. So I think it's a very good deal.
Yeah, and some people were still critical of it, but
you're paying him less than half his yearly salary to fuck off. I think that's a win. It's definitely a win. I don't understand people that would criticise that as
no.
I think it's a better deal than the deals that the Hassan Harad board got last year.
Yeah, I think so.
Apart from Ante Rebic, I think they basically paid everyone else a full salary to fuck off.
Yeah, almost at least. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly what we gave Daniel Amartey, but that definitely wasn't a low amount. I think we paid, like you said, almost his entire salary to fuck off. And I think for Ciro, I think it also shows some character on his end, because reportedly the money he's getting from Bologna is between 2 and 2.5 million net. So that means he's leaving nearly €1 million on the table. I mean,
really, he's leaving more than that on the table. He could have still asked. He could have been a prick and asked for the full amount still.
Yeah, I guess, but like, why would we let him go for the full amount, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. And we
wouldn't. He could ask for it if they're that desperate to get rid of him.
Yeah, he could, but then, I mean, he still wants to play, so that would mean sitting on his ass for a year. I mean,
that shows the character.
Yeah, exactly. I think it does show character. It's a lot of money, and people criticize it, but at the end of the day, like, he's leaving close to €1 million 850,000 euros net. He's leaving that. Like he's saying, okay, I don't need that. That's a lot of money, man. Like, you know, he has 3 children, I think. Yeah, that's a house for one of them. A big house for one of his kids that he's leaving on the table. And like he's 35 years old. Like it's not like he has a lot of years left to earn big money. So I think kudos to him. You know, you see younger players sometimes leave money on the table, but like this is a 35-year-old player who's realistically this was his final big contract. Props to him, and I think the goodbye post he shared also very classy. His wife shared a goodbye post as well, very classy. I'll just hit the translate button here so people can read it behind us. But I think it's I think it just shows that he's a professional, and even though it wasn't a success. And this is gonna sound weird because, I'm happy I managed to get one of his shirts, and I think he's a cool player, man. Because he's still at the end of the day, he's in the last decade or so, he's been one of the best strikers in Europe, and I think it's still kind of cool that he played for Beşiktaş, even though it wasn't a very successful stint, unfortunately.
I would have much rather that we got someone that was successful.
Me too. But I still think it's cool. So good luck to Ciro. I hope he does well at Bologna. And now, or how do you pronounce it again? Kartal?
For what name?
Bologna.
Bologna?
That's how you said it last time.
Did I say Bologna last time?
Bologna, yeah, that's what you said. Like last year, I think you said that. I thought it was funny. But no, good luck for Ciro, and thank you for the 19 goals. Thank you for the Super Cup. Some great goals, man. This goal against Lugano was fantastic. I thought his goal against Galatasaray was great in the Super Cup. His goal against Fenerbahçe that went to Ox. We wouldn't have beaten Fener in that game if it wasn't for Ciro. So thank you, Ciro. Ciao, Ciro. Grazie mille. Buona fortuna a Bologna. Alright, let's talk about some other stuff though, because this is kind of like the only outgoing news. But there's one more. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, there was news about him parting ways with the club, but that has not yet been made official. And the report there, I'm just gonna bring that up on my own screen here. I don't have it necessarily open, but I have a notes app. Where is my notes? Where are my notes? Where are my notes? Oh, they are tiny. That's what she said. But he apparently also agreed to terminate his deal. Kartal, I don't know if you've seen this. Of course, you have.
Saw the reports, but then the next day, the more serious reporters were saying that it's not done and negotiations are ongoing. So Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is still officially a Beşiktaş player.
Yeah, so this came around the same time the Ciro news broke. So Oxlade-Chamberlain contract reportedly terminated and will be paid 1.5 million compensation. I don't remember who reported this though. I thought Murat Özem reported it, but maybe it was someone else. And then there's also, of course, the rumors about Milot Rashica and Borussia Mönchengladbach being interested in him. There's rumors about Svensson leaving, but he's not gone yet. Have you seen whether or not Svensson's at training with the club now?
Yeah, he's training, yeah.
All right, that's good. So
the only players not included in the camp,
Ox, right?
One of them was Ox, and there was one more. I can't remember who it was, but it was Ox and someone else. Everyone else was included. Yeah.
Okay. And then one more outgoing report. Adnan Karahisar has actually joined Adana Football Kulübü. And for those of you who follow the under-19s, Adnan was the top scorer for the under-19s this past season. And he's going to be joining Adana Football Kulübü, and they're in the they're actually in the third division, I should say. It's the İkinci Lig. I think they're in the Kırmızı group, but it could be the Beyaz group. I don't remember exactly. But so they're in the third division of third tier of Turkish football. So hopefully he'll get plenty of playing time there, Kartal, and he can come back with a year under his belt, and then maybe be ready for another stint, maybe in the Birinci League or maybe in the Super League or something like that. Hopefully he'll go through a similar career trajectory as Kartal Kaira, where he gets some successful loan spells under his belt, and then hopefully at a certain point gets to the point where he's ready to play for the first team.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I think there's a couple of rumours as well.
Mm-hmm.
So people are talking about Jadon Sancho. What do you make of that one?
Yeah, I mean, let's get talk. I haven't actually
even scroll up on you're on for that Gunnair's Twitter page just now. Scroll up a wee bit.
All right,
I believe he posted that and all.
I didn't see these. I saw you guys. I saw some of the guys talking in our WhatsApp community. Again, hit that. Take out your phone and scan that QR code. But I didn't actually see these rumors. I know Jadon Sancho was being linked with a move to Juventus. Before that, he was being moved with a move to Fenerbahçe, but Fenerbahçe apparently left the table and did not continue or did not pursue their interest in him. So I'm just trying to look.
Yeah, there was a top 11 he posted somewhere. Or maybe it was just the main feed and I thought it was him because I saw his tweet after it.
Okay, I'm not seeing much. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Orkun Kökçü, but I'm not seeing anything about Jadon Sancho. So I haven't really seen anything about Jadon Sancho. And for some reason, the browser version, the search function doesn't really work. So I can't even look for his name. I'm gonna not stay on his page though. But where did you see that, Kartal? Do you know? Can you find out where you maybe saw?
I think just now, man, it's just a lot of shit. It's just a kind of the Twitter, the Twitter journals, no traditional journals, the doyums. The ITKs, I think. The ITKs are what they call them in the UK.
Yeah, the wannabe ITKs.
Yeah, wannabe ones.
Yeah.
But it is a name that's a lot of people are talking about him now in the community. And the reason why it has been talked about a lot, is because, and apparently Football 365, whatever the fuck that is, has reported it. The Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was involved in bringing him, according to Football 365, which I don't know where that page is based on. Another journalist is someone called Arsene Albayrak, who is part of Kartal Records, so works alongside Mustafa Karataş. So he's reported it as well that Beşiktaş been inquired for Jadon Sancho. So they're saying here that there's the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer link from United. It was him that brought him there, and Tammy, apparently close friends with Tammy Abraham, and there's also the link that Edward Graff was the one that brought Jadon Sancho back to Dortmund.
Well, I mean,
apparently he was the main guy in bringing him back to Dortmund. If you
do a quick search on Jadon Sancho's name, it's mostly Juventus. Yeah. And I think I think if Fener pulled out because they probably couldn't afford him, then it's not realistic that Beşiktaş would be able to, right? So I think this is probably just one of those wind-ups online by people who want to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe if it was Mustafa Karataş, I'd maybe give it some credibility, but it's his colleague who we don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like saying, okay, but Sercan Dikme sits next to Firat Güneyer, and Firat Güneyer has got connections to the board, so everything Sercan says is
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that might give it a bit of credibility. I'm not saying it's true. There's a chance it's completely bullshit, as you said.
Yeah.
As you said, the Juventus link seems to be the most talked about link just now, and obviously we can't offer. We don't have the financial power that Juventus has, and we don't have the the pool that they have either for top talent. So obviously Juventus is as much as Besiktas is a huge club, but Juventus is is in the top 10 clubs in the world.
You also need to keep in mind, what the club, like what Jadon Sancho would cost, right? Like there's probably a transfer fee involved around 25 million euros, but then you also need to keep in mind there's a wage involved, like probably 10 million a year or something,
Yeah, the only way I see a move like that happen, Kaan, is this. For example, is something like Osman, where he's got no other options left, the window's shut, Man U aren't going to play him at all.
Yeah.
Maybe then you can work out a deal.
Maybe. But
the question is, do we pay those wages?
I think it's not realistic, though. I think he'll probably...
I don't think so either. I really don't think so either, but it is something that's been talked about a lot in the community, but we obviously, both of us here from the Black Eagles podcast, we're saying don't take those rumours seriously. It's a load of shit. You're probably just going to end up disappointed in the end. Like the Orkun Kökçü stuff's been reported enough where there's a glimmer of hope.
Shooting it down.
But I don't think for this. I don't think there's even a glimmer of hope. It's just not going to happen, man. If we can get maybe the Georgian guy, Davidashvili, that's maybe more of a realistic option. The left mid from Spain, Prado, who we were linked with maybe about a month ago.
Yeah, so Puedo.
These are realistic options, man. These are.
I think he extended
options.
though. I think he extended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. This is another player we're being linked with now, according to Shafak Malatya. İrfan Can Kahveci, who just renewed his contract at Fenerbahçe, but apparently, I don't know who reported that specifically, but there's been talks between him and Mourinho again making it clear that İrfan Can isn't really in his plans. İrfan Can not happy at Fener, and now the links with Beşiktaş are heating up again. I mean, first and foremost, if he's not in Mourinho's plans, why does Fenerbahçe extend him? Is that then just to avoid him signing for a rival, right? And also, if you're İrfan Can Kahveci, like you know my opinion on this guy. I think he's a bonehead. But like seriously, if you know the coach you're working with doesn't like you, why on earth would you sign an extension? He could have signed with Galatasaray, he could have signed with Fenerbahçe, he could have signed with Trabzonspor, probably gotten similar money, maybe a signing bonus. Like, I honestly don't understand this guy. Like, I think it's both stupid on Fenerbahçe's end, and I think it's extremely stupid on İrfan Can Kahveci's end to have extended that contract. On Fenerbahçe's end, at least, I kind of understand, because you don't want a player going to your rivals if you think he's good. But if you think he's that good, why on earth do you not use him properly, right? Don't know how you feel about this. İrfan Can Kahveci's 30 years old, I think, or about to turn 30 years old.
Honestly, Kaan, I think see if we don't want to spend a lot of money on that position just now. I think on a 1 year loan it could be a great idea.
Yeah,
because you will only pay his wages. If we can get him on loan for a year, I think he's the type of guy that you could rotate with Arroyo as well, and you're not going to be too worried about not playing him enough because it's just a loan.
But why would you?
And then that means you can rotate.
Yeah, but if you're Fenerbahçe, if you extended this guy just to prevent him from signing with a rival, why would you then go and loan him?
We don't.
Right?
We don't know for sure that that's the case just now, Kaan.
Yeah.
It's maybe there's a club decision that went over the boss, and do you want me to be really honest with you?
Yeah,
I think
please.
After Mourinho goes next summer, if a Turkish coach comes in, I think the next coach will probably want to use him, especially if he was to come to us on loan and have a good season. Because I do think he's a good player. As much as he might be a bonehead, he's a talented player. And if you look at the season he had a couple of years ago under Ismail Kartal, well, not this past season, but the year before, he had a very, very good season. So if he can come to us on loan and show a similar performance to that as well, and the fact it's only a loan means you don't need to play him in every game. You can rotate him in and out depending on the difficulty of the game or the situation and what you might need in that game with Arroyo. that way you're not thinking I've made this huge investment that I need to play him over Arroyo. It's not going to hamper Arroyo's development. I think it could be the ideal situation to obviously give you a safety cushion just in case Arroyo doesn't work out, and it stops you from hampering Arroyo's development. Say I've been open saying I'd like Skov Olsen because he's a player that's consistently showing great numbers in Belgium. Maybe he's not been as successful in Roseburg, but he was very successful over his stint at Club Brugge. I said I want him, but you could argue that Irfan Can Kahveci is a smarter move, because if he signs Skov Olsen, it's going to be hard for Arroyo to get a sniff in if they sign a left winger as well. So I think this could be potentially the perfect move. Potentially.
I have a very strict policy against loaning players from a rival. I think after Danny Nunke, we should never do that again. Never.
I mean, that's a fair point, but I think Irfan Can Kahveci is going to be fired up, man. I think he wants to prove Mourinho wrong. And how much better, how good would it be for him if he could come to Beşiktaş and show Mourinho, hey, this is what you've missed out on? Do you not think that would be a great source of inspiration and motivation for him?
Maybe. Have you seen this picture?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice edit. It's not new.
Okay, I thought it was maybe him playing like on the courts in the Netherlands or something. I was like, oh, that's a very recent. It's an edit, bro. Okay. From your favorite.
I've lost it. Share screen, by the way.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll share that again. Well, yeah, for me, that's a big no-no, man. Players from other clubs, from the rivals. I'm not a fan of it. Loaning. After what happened with Danny Nunke, I think we should never do that again, because, I mean, you know how corrupt Turkish football is, right? Like, we just saw another example of that. Oh shit! I think I just I stopped that. Sorry about that. With this whole news coming out with Alassane Maximum saying that Fenerbahçe even tried to getting him to use doping and stuff like that, and then you have the whole thing with Galatasaray and the PFDK. I think that kind of stuff just goes to show you how corrupt Turkish football is, and I mean, you don't want to then loan a player from your rivals and give them an opportunity to sabotage you from the inside out, because that's what happened with Dani. That's legitimately what happened there. I know that for a fact. And yeah, I never think we should put ourselves in that sort of a situation ever again, where you give a rival the opportunity to pull strings on a player that is still theirs and is just working for you as a mercenary. Because, the thing what happened with Dani, he was still owed a lot of money by Galatasaray, and let's just say that he got paid after the derby. So I think it's very risky to trust a player that is playing for a rival like that. And I'm not saying, I think most players probably wouldn't do it. Just like how Sam Maxim said no. I think a lot of players would say no, but there's also players who won't. You can't know that going in, right? So you should never put yourself in a situation where that's even a possibility. So I am dead set against loaning players from rivals. I'm also not a big fan of buying players from a rival, because then you're just giving them money. So yeah, the only way a player should go from a rival to us is if they're a free agent, in my opinion. All right, Kartal, any other rumors that you'd like to talk about? I'm just scrolling through.
It seems like the in terms of the right wing position, the players being talked about. We've talked about Orkun's potentially going to be the number 8 that comes in if it happens. Obviously, that'd be a miracle. right mid, left wing. We've kind of talked about Jadon Sancho. We mentioned briefly Poado and David Shvili as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are saying they want Marcus Rashford, but that's just people saying they want him just now.
Yeah.
So in terms of right wing, we've covered Irfan Can Kahveci, but obviously the other two names being mentioned the most for that position are Vaclav Černý and Andres Skov Olsen. So the question is, out of those three players, who would you like to see be brought in right mid, and what would be the reason why?
So wait, which ones? Skov Olsen. Which one was the other ones?
So Černý, Vaclav Černý, and then the third one would be Irfan Can Kahveci, but we know you don't want Irfan Can, so it'd be one of the two.
Yeah, Olsen definitely. Then yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I have concerns about him because he's I told you this, like, he's not known to be necessarily the most fun guy behind the scenes. That makes sense. Like,
yeah.
he has this reputation of being a grumpy grouch behind the scenes and somebody who likes to mope around, and also someone who doesn't necessarily like love football, if that makes sense. Like, he's somebody who's just happens to be really good at it, but doesn't necessarily love it, doesn't necessarily live for it. But at the end of the day, it's a guy, is 25 years old. He's turning 26 in December. He had phenomenal numbers at Club Brugge. He's a very, very good player. And if I were to choose between him and Vaclav Černý, I'd pick him every day of the week. Yeah, definitely. He's younger, and he doesn't have the same injury history as Černý does. And yeah, I just think he's a way more consistent player, and I think he has more eccentric quality. Not to say that Vaclav Černý is a bad player, mind you. You know, I mean, not saying he's bad or anything, but I feel like Černý is like, it's like settling. If that makes sense, you know, like.
Yeah, and he's like, he could very well come to us and be phenomenal, just like he was at Rangers. But I look at the guy's career, Kaan. I see he had a very good start with Rangers, failed at Wolfsburg, was very good for FC20. In fact, he had one really good year at 20. You could say two, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think he must have transferred there mid-season because he only made 17 appearances, unless maybe he was injured.
He did, at some point he did tear his ACL, I think, but I don't remember. I don't know when exactly that was. I can see a guy that's had 3 good seasons. He's had one amazing season for 20, one good season for Rangers, and another good season for 20. And he's like 28, right? Like, he's turning 28, I think. He's turning 28, and he's had 3 good seasons. So the big question mark is like, if we're going to pay a lot of money for this guy, which I think it'd probably take 10 million to take him off. Probably something, yeah.
So what Černý are we going to get? Are we going to get the one we saw at FC20? Are we going to the one we saw at Rangers? Or are we going to see the Černý that was at Wolfsburg and Ajax? It's just it's a bit of a question mark. Whereas Skov Olsen, you know better than me, but I've had a look at his numbers, and from what I can remember, apart from the last 6 months, or was it the last year at Wolfsburg? Wolfsburg, he's been consistent throughout in Belgium.
Oh yeah, definitely. Plus he's also just got the age factor, right? Like, he's yet to turn 26. That's we've signed now Jurasek, who's 24, about to turn 25. We signed Cajuste, who's 25, about to turn 26. And then we have Tammy Abraham, who's 27, who is yet to turn 28. And also, this is interesting, something Mustafa Karataş pointed out, by the way. Like, we've added height to the team as well. You know, you now have Tammy Abraham 194, you've got Cajuste 188, and you've got Jurasek 183. And I think we were kind of a small team the last year or so. So I think us adding some height to the team is also a positive factor, but that's obviously besides the point. But yeah, I think right now, you know, if you look at the players 24, 25, and 27 that we've signed, I would like us to see staying in that like age area, and then I would prefer it to be closer to 25 than to 28, right? Obviously. So for that reason alone, I prefer Skov Olsen, but I also just think that Skov Olsen has more. He's a good goal scorer, but he can also create. and I think he's just a better all-round football player who, like Rafa, has that spark of brilliance in him. And I don't know Černý well enough, but he doesn't strike me as that type of player, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Skov Olsen, he can create and he can score. I mean, it's a dream scenario having a winger that can do both, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's something, he could definitely be a very valuable addition to our team. I think out of the three players we've talked about, Irfan Can, Černý, Skov Olsen, I think would be the best player to come. I think he'd be who I'd want, but at the same time, I think I made a good point about if he, let's say, brought in an Irfan Can on loan, you wouldn't be worried about rotating him and giving a row the minutes he needs to develop further. So it's a hard one, but I think for me the kind of the player deep down I'd want out of those three is Andreas Skov Olsen as well.
But where are those links coming from though? Because I haven't really seen much. I mean, there's been talk about it, but I feel like it's been mostly people kind of pining for him rather than credible links. You know?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it's maybe some of the lower tier journalists that aren't as big, but I don't think we've seen a Nuzan or a Yaz or a Sajan or a Ferret report it yet. But there definitely has been a lot of chatter about Skov Olsen. It seems to be that Vaclav Černý is the biggest link. He seems to be the one that's been linked the most. In terms of Skov Olsen, Habar Global have linked him with us. Obviously, that's not a very reliable source. The transfer market's never a good place to look at, but they've said that there's a 75% chance he signs for us. But again, not the most reliable source. But there is things out there linking the player to the club. So hopefully, as time progresses, it will become more serious, and it would be nice to see him join the club.
Maybe it's good.
I think he's a player we'll enjoy.
Maybe it's a good thing, Kartal, that he isn't being linked too seriously, because most of these players we've signed so far are players that weren't talked about or not talked about a lot. I think Cajuste was talked about a little bit a couple of weeks or like a week ago by one or two people, but not like widely. Abraham wasn't talked about much either, except for a while back, but again, not like it didn't really pick up steam that much. And Jurasek just nobody knew. So I mean, you know, the fact that Vaclav Černý is the one that's being talked about more, maybe that just means he's not coming, right?
Potentially, man.
But also, I feel, you know, Černý kind of to me, and I don't know, it might be totally wrong. It might be somebody that's been on the radar for John Wick and for Edward Graaf and Ole for a while. But it would just strike me as one of those transfers. Oh, this guy killed Fener in the Europa League. Let's sign him. That's how it would come across to me, right?
Yeah, it just seems like it's like those. Oh, Rashika was good for Galatasaray. Let's sign him. Oh, obviously Gedson's a very good player, but let's be honest, we didn't sign him because of his past. We signed him because he was very good for Galatasaray. Didn't we?
Yeah,
that's the main reason. Saying good or not, he's a very good player.
Yeah,
he won so many big games for us. But the reason why we signed him, if he never had that stint at Galatasaray, I don't think we'd laugh.
He wouldn't have been on. Yeah, he would not have been on our radar. You know, like
man. And then,
especially back then.
And then who else have we got that's been like that? I mean, as good as
not necessarily us.
For Trabzon.
Yeah, Nakayeme was because he played good against us. I was just gonna say Nakayeme and Coelho, Jaja Coelho before that as well. Jaja Coelho played good against us with Metalist Kharkiv, and Trabzon signed him a couple of years later, and you know that happens all the time. You remember Mohamed Rashad? Erzurumspor signed him after he scored against us.
He played against us in the Europa League.
Yeah, so that like you see that so often in Turkey, like a player scores against a Turkish club, and then suddenly like one of the Turkish clubs decides to
look at Gela, man. He played a couple of good games against Galatasaray in the Champions League with Copenhagen. He spent 9 million on him and then never use him.
Yeah, 9.5 million, and I think even
so. There's been good and bad examples of it, but I don't think in general it's a good practice. Like we were almost signing that left back from Young Boys.
Last year, Hajam,
just because it was good. Yeah, and apparently the guy and like really most of the time was pretty shit. He just had a really good game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure UGL even confirmed it that we're close to signing him as well.
Yeah.
So it's obviously there's been the ones that have really worked out, like your McCamey obviously was a brilliant signing, and Gedson Fernandes. Whether you think he's the right profile or not, you can't deny the fact that he's been a very effective player for us, especially in those big games. You cannot deny that. Like there's times where it's worked out, and then there's been times where like you think, oh, like it's just so stupid, man. Like they need to be a lot more serious with their scouting, Turkish clubs in general. And I really hope that we are past that now, with Edward Graf being the technical director and established scouts like Vic in the club, and a coach like Ollie that's clearly like. Can you remember a coach up until Ollie said what you said, how we've actually got a lot of good players, but they've just kind of been randomly collected? Have you heard a Beşiktaş coach talk about squad building like that in the past? I don't think I have been.
No, and that is for me one of the main reasons why I really want us to continue with Ole, and why I'm happy we are doing that. And whether or not he's going to end up leading us to a championship, I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I think at least he's going to lay the groundworks for future success. And I think as long as we keep paying the bills, if Adala can cover that, and we keep transferring players with the right profiles, I think we'll do a lot better than we have in the last 4 years. And of course, the fact that the player has quote unquote the right profile is not a guarantee for success.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But at least
they just might not work out. They might not settle in Istanbul. They might be someone that prefers a smaller place. That affects them mentally. It doesn't work because of that. It affects their on pitch. There's so many things that can go wrong. They might get injured in training and miss the full season, and they might never get their performance back. So many things can happen. But if you're signing the right profiles, there's no guarantee for success, but your chance of success increases significantly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. All right, I think we covered most of the transfer talk that's in the news right now. Hopefully in the next couple of days things heat up and we get to do another one of these soon, Kartal. But for now, I think we've covered plenty of it. Guys, please go and check out our... Wait, where do I have to point? I have to point over here. Check out this here. Yeah, in the middle here, the QR code. Scan it with your phone. Join our WhatsApp community. Consider becoming a Patreon member on patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast, or hit the join button on YouTube to gain access to lots of exclusive content, including the Schwarting report. But for one time only, we have the Schwarting report out in public right now. You can watch it at the moment on YouTube. And check that out. It is something that Sinan Schwarting does monthly. He does he grades the performance within the club, from the players to the staff to the president. Ural Alhan joins him on there as well. I think it's about 1 hour and 20 minutes for the season recap. Go and check that out. Leave a like and a comment on that video. But of course, let us know what you thought of this video, what you thought of the transfer rumors. How are you feeling about Jens Cajuste or Cajuste, or however? Let us know. If you're from Sweden, how the hell do you pronounce that? Let us know how you feel about the transfer. Let us know how you feel about the transfers we've done before that. Jurasek, Tammy Abraham. And what do you think? Is Orkun Kökçü a pipe dream? Or could Beşiktaş pull off the heist of the century? Let us know in the comments. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of any future videos. And thank you all for watching. And like Sinan always says, Kartal, let's go Beşiktaş.
Let's go Beşiktaş.